All right, so this video is meant to go along with pages 7 and 8, and you can just go ahead and take notes along the way with me. So at the top of page 7 here, we've got that in this new unit, I will now be given the total. Okay, I'm now giving you the total. That's the whole point. I will undo the order of operations and solve to find the missing part. The missing part is the value of our variable, which is our answer. Okay? I cannot say this enough, folks. In our previous unit, when you've had all of the parts, we simplify the expression to find the missing total. Now, when we have the total, we are going to solve the equation to find that missing part. Okay? So, in our last unit, you had all the parts. You had a two-term expression. I want to remind you guys with some vocab. This is a term, and this is a term. You had a coefficient and a variable, and you have a constant. You also have the value of the variable, and you plug it in. 3 times 4 was the 12. And now when we add our two terms together, we get an 18. So in our new unit, you're going to be given the total of 18, and now we got to figure out what the x was. So we're going to take our line, we're going to drop our line from the equal sign, and our constant is a positive 6, so we're going to subtract 6 on both sides. That allows me to slash this out, and I'm going to bring down the 3x in my work. 18 minus 6 is 12, and now because my coefficient is 3, I want to divide 3 by itself to get a 1 here for the x, for the coefficient of x. And now 1 times x is just my x, and on this side 12 divided by 3 would be a 4. On a number line, let's go ahead and plot that the answer here is simply a 4. The reason I mention this on a number line is because we are eventually going to be looking at inequalities. And when we graph that x could be anything bigger than the 4, we're going to have an open circle on the 4 and then be shading larger than it. So I wanted to kind of go ahead and if x equaled the 4, at least have the idea of just putting a spot on the 4 for now. Okay? And actually I can mention that if there was this or equal to part, that is when it would be equal to, and that's when you're going to see the fact that it could be the 4 with a colored in circle. All right. Now back to this. For our vocab, let's just make sure, okay, that we're good to go with this. We've got a 5x minus 4 equals 19. So this is an equation because we have one expression equals another. I want to point out that one of my expressions is algebraic. My other expression is numerical. This is an algebraic expression. This is a numerical expression. It's just a number. And when you set them equal to each other, you've got an equation. Now, in my algebraic expression, the 5x minus the 4, we have two terms. All right? The 5x is a term, and the negative 4 is a term. Now, 19 is the total. It is also a numerical expression, which is considered a term as well. That's one term by itself over there, but it's also considered our total. Now we have over here, 5x is a term with two parts. This 5x is a term with two parts. 5 is the coefficient, and x is the variable. Now this other term, the negative 4, is all by itself. So it is a term, and it's called a constant because it is all by itself without a variable. Okay? All right, so now let's practice here. Using the equation 6x minus 3 equals 33, let's answer the following. What is the coefficient? So what's the number with x? That's the 6. Friendly reminder that this is a term with two parts, and the 6 is the coefficient of x. Now this is another term, and it's a number all by itself, and since there's a negative, our constant's a negative 3. And now let's go ahead and solve because it does ask us to find the value of x. So when we drop the line, we have a negative 3 as my constant, so I add 3 on both sides, and that cancels it out. And over here, 33 plus 3 is 36. Now when I bring down my 6x, because 6 is my coefficient, I'm dividing it by 6 to get x all by itself, and we'll see here that x goes on to be a 6. Okay? All right, that takes care of page 7. Now let's flip over to page 8. Here we go. So we're going to get used to some unfamiliar formatting here on page 8. We're still undoing the order of operations. And the first thing we're going to do, we're going to look for the constant. And we're going to either add or subtract to cancel it out. And then the very next thing we're going to do is we're going to divide both sides by the coefficient. So for this first problem here, you'll notice that I have let me highlight here. I have my numerical expression over here, and the algebraic expression is over here with the variable that we're going to solve for. That's why we have the strategy of dropping the line, because now you can focus your attention over here on this side, and now simply ask, what's the constant? The constant here is a -7, so notice I add 7 and I add it underneath it so I can cancel out, and I just bring down the 6x. Over here, 23 plus 7 is 30, and 30 divided by 6 is 5. The reason I divided by 6 was because my coefficient was a 6, and I can cancel it out. Now, friendly reminder, we have to check our work, and if we think x is 5, let's plug it in. So here's our expression, and 6 times 5 is 30, and 30 minus 7 is in fact 23. All right, I'm going to do another example here with you. So this time we have the expression is on this side with our x, but we have the constant first, and then we have the coefficient with the variable. But still, same process. First, find your constant. It's a -4, so you add 4 to cancel that out and bring down the 5x. We have our property of equality, so we add 4 on both sides, and 16 plus 4 is 20. Now, because my coefficient is 5, we divide both sides by that 5, and we get x equals 4, and now let's check. When we plug it in, 5 times 4 is the 20, and -4 plus 20 is a positive 16. So at this point, I'm going to ask you to pause the video and try the next 4 on your own. And when you hit resume, the work will be there for you to check. Okay, so pause your video, please. All right, here are the last 4 for you to check. We can see that we get a -1 here. And when you plug it in to check, that works out. We get a -2 for this one, a -4 for this one, and a -2 again for this one. So feel free to pause the video and take a look at the work if there's anything you don't understand. But if you're good to go with these problems, you are done with page 8. Thank you.